What's up, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Everyday Discipline, where we decode, deconstruct, and reverse engineer self-discipline for you to get whatever it is you want in your life. My name is Brent Kokel, and I am your host as always. I mentioned that I'm always a couple other things as well, primarily a husband and a father, and I also categorize myself as an athlete, but we're going to tell a story about fatherhood today, rather what happened to my kids. And this lesson that I think is going to be really relevant, and probably punch some people between the eyes, which that's the way it goes. So trigger warning for this episode, but it's one that if it's gonna trigger you, you probably need to hear it. I recognized that in myself was that every time I seek to be exposed, I get more out of it. Because that comes from a place of ultimate humility when you're looking for the things that you're not good enough yet to deal with, that you need to level up on. And I say you in this sense, but I very well mean me, which is that every time there's something that exposes me, it helps me understand the truth about myself. And by understanding the truth about myself as it exists today, that is the springboard that allows me to move forward to bigger, better, faster, stronger, all the things that I want to be in my own life. So as you listen to this episode, you might find yourself exposed. And I'm going to have you consider that that is a very good thing if you're in a space where you're ready to hear that. If right now you're shut off and you're like, no, I don't want to hear anything that might possibly make me have a negative feeling about myself, then pass this episode up and go on to the next one or go to the last one if there isn't another episode in there yet. Because I promise you, some people are going to listen to this and just go like, man, all right, I guess I'm right about that. So here's what went down. It was field day at my kid's school the other week, and I was there volunteering. And I'm standing out there, and both my kids are in elementary school, and my daughter is in 5th grade. Now, I don't know if you know the difference between 5th grade boys and 5th grade girls, but 5th grade girls have started to go through puberty, as I'm well too aware of my 11-year-old daughter and the conversations that she wants to have with me and the types of things that she's talking about and the way she's looking at boys. Like, there's a whole thing going on there that I am requiring myself not to shy away from. Because I think that's kind of like the standard thing. Dads are like, leave that to mom, she'll deal with that. But like, I want my daughter to always be able to come to me and talk to me, and especially about the hard things. So girls in 5th grade, much more mature than boys. One of the things that they were doing at this field day that I was at was a tug of war. And my daughter's 5th grade class gets to the tug of war, and they've got this rope, it's probably like 30 feet long, because the classes are big at this school that our children go to. And one of the boys in 5th grade, in my daughter's 5th grade class, has this great idea. He says, we're going to do a tug of war, and it's boys against girls. Because when you're in 5th grade, you don't really like girls. They still have cooties, none of them are cute and all that. I think I started thinking girls were cute in about like 7th grade. So he was pre-time, at least for me, that I would have thought girls were pretty cute. So he says, boys against girls. Girls, you go to that side. Boys, we're going to go to this side. And I'm sitting there going like, all right, let's see what happens with this. And so they start off, and they've got like a parent volunteer that's holding the rope in the middle that's saying like, okay, now you guys can go by letting go of the rope, and they start pulling. And so the parent volunteer is standing in the middle, and she looks at the girls and says, are you guys ready? And the girls go, yeah. And then it looks at the boys, you guys ready? Yeah, we're ready too. So the parent volunteer lets go of the rope, and they start pulling. Now, they only started pulling for maybe 5 seconds because that's how long it took for the 5th grade girls to absolutely decimate the 5th grade boys. Like 5th grade boys flying everywhere because the girls are tugging so hard on this thing, and all of them are like 6 inches taller than the boys, and so I don't know why the boys thought they were going to win. But the boys said, wait a second, it's time for us to have another one. That was just a warm-up. We got something way better for you, it's coming next, and we want to do another one. And so the girls are like, all right, if that's what you guys want, we'll kick your ass again. Bring it on. So they get back in line, parent volunteer looking, girls ready, boys ready, everybody's ready, takes hands off of the rope, and instantly, boom, girls destroy the boys again. Now, I saw this coming. I don't know if the boys saw this coming, but destroys them again. And the boys at this stage, they kind of give up. They're like, all right, well, it wasn't a mistake the first time. It was just the fact that we got our ass kicked and they were a lot stronger than us. So the lesson inside of this, as it relates to you and as it relates to me, is that if you don't win, it's just that you're not good enough yet. I know that's something that we don't want to hear, that you're just not good enough yet. Because what we're all looking for is we're looking for the secret that we missed. If something isn't going the way that we want it to go, we think that there's some magic formula or there's a silver bullet or unicorn dust that is going to help us ultimately win because we want a shortcut. We want something to happen faster. We want to go from being a 5th grade boy to an 8th grade boy where now we're getting more developed than the girls. And if there was a tug of war between 8th grade girls and 8th grade boys, the boys are more likely going to win that. We want a jump. We want a shortcut. But the trouble is that shortcuts simply don't exist. Because when something didn't go the way that you want it to go, most often it's not because something went wrong. It's not because the stars didn't align the way that they were supposed to align. It's because you haven't acquired the skill yet that was necessary to win that particular battle. Here's a great example from me in my own life as it relates to running a ton of advertisements. So I'd run online ads to a kind of like hybrid product that was part in-person, part on-demand video, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working. I couldn't figure out why. I was like, maybe the algorithm at Facebook doesn't like it. Maybe I'm publishing too many native posts that are about my ultra-conservative mindset, and Facebook doesn't like that, and that's why they're not putting my ads in front of people. And maybe it's that the video guys that created the videos didn't do the right work. We didn't create the right video. But the reality of it is that none of those things were true. What was true was that I had yet to acquire the skill of getting people to click on an ad, which is a skill set in and of itself. And it blends several skill sets together because there is the skill set of writing a compelling headline that really hooks the viewer in, that says like, what the hell is that? And almost demands that they read. There's the skill of writing long form copy where one line leaves itself open to where it demands that you read the next. There's also the skill of understanding the video or the image and what needs to go in those things that's going to get somebody to click over. Don't even get me started on the skill of everything that happens on the back end of the Facebook Ads Manager. It wasn't that any of that other thing was going wrong. It's that I wasn't good enough yet. I needed to get better. I needed to level up that skill set. It didn't mean that I wasn't going to win ever. It meant that I was not yet going to win because I hadn't spent the time to acquiring the skill set. Another good example. I was getting more leads once I figured out the advertising for this coaching program than I could handle myself. I was getting 20 to 30 leads every single day. People who would go to my website, fill out an application, and want to book a call to interview for coming into the program, because that's the way we did it. We wanted to interview everybody, make sure we had the right person that was going to be part of this program. But I couldn't handle 20 to 30 a day. There was no way that was ever going to happen because each one of these calls ended up taking about an hour. And so what I did was I hired 2 salesmen. I said, listen, I need more help. So I'm going to hire 2 salesmen that are going to come in and they are going to take a lot of these calls for people who want to come into the program. And we're going to accept some of them. We're going to reject some of them. But we need to close people, meaning that they need to give us their credit card on the call in order for this experiment to work of hiring the salespeople. When I was doing this by myself, I was closing about 35%. So 35% on cold traffic, where all they'd seen of me to that point was they'd seen an ad and they'd seen a couple of videos. And so this is like maybe the 4th time they've interacted with me. So I'm closing 35% on a $12,000 product. Pretty good, right? If we look at the industry averages, 35% is pretty good on cold traffic when it comes to that type of sale. So I'm expecting that my sales guys are going to close roughly about the same until they started doing it. And they closed 15%, which didn't work with the way that we were spending our ads. We're spending more money on ads than we were getting people to sign up for the program. Now, this was a skill set problem for me. I wasn't good enough yet at a couple of important skills. I wasn't good enough yet at recruiting great salespeople. I wasn't great at interviewing great salespeople, hiring great salespeople, or managing great salespeople. There were 4 skill sets that I did not yet have that made it so it was virtually impossible for me to win, by having those salespeople on board. I knew how to sell, which was an entirely different skill than managing salespeople. We weren't even having daily huddles. I wasn't even listening back to their recorded calls. I lacked the skill entirely. I just wasn't good enough yet at those 3 essential skills. This is what I mean by, at the beginning, seeking exposure about the places that you aren't good enough yet creates a very, very clear path forward. It helps you understand what your point A is. See, a lot of people, they understand their point B. This is where they want to go. The spot where it's like, that's my goal, that's my target, that's what I want. They understand that. But very few people are willing to understand what point A, where they are right now, looks like. Because it's not where they want to be. But the only way to get to where you want to go is to understand where you are, because if you don't, you'll never understand the gap between where you are and where you want to go. It works like navigation in a car, right? Or on your phone. The only reason that works isn't because you typed in an address of where you want to go, point B. The only reason it works is because there is a geosynchronous satellite, 37,900 miles in orbit over the Earth, that's right over all of us pretty much all the time, depending on where you are, that knows where your phone or where your car is. It understands point A. The idea of exposure is about understanding point A in a really honest, authentic way. I shared 2 ways where I just wasn't good enough yet. It wasn't that I wasn't ever going to be. It was that I wasn't winning. It was nobody else's fault. It wasn't because the stars weren't aligning. I just wasn't good enough yet. Just like the 5th grade boys who got creamed by the 5th grade girls in tug of war. They just weren't good enough yet. But they will be. They will be mostly because of natural evolution. You will be, though, and I will be, because we're on a constant path to figure out what the gap looks like and fill in that gap with skill sets that create a bridge from point A to point B. And that's all the game is. The game that we're all playing. If we're playing a business game, a life game, a body game, a balance game, a being game, it does not matter. If you are not winning, it's simply because you are not good enough yet. With a big emphasis on yet. Which leads us to the call to action for today's episode. If this is the first episode you listen to, this is what you've got to do as your fee for listening to the show. If you're here a lot, you get the idea. But the fee is simply this, is that do something with this information, with this show, what we talked about here, within the next 24 to 48 hours that is somehow going to improve your life in some way. The answer to this is simply asking yourself a question, which is, where am I not good enough yet? What skill do I need to acquire to be good enough, to win the way that I want to win? Not to accept the win that just comes to me, but like the win that I actually want to get. What's the skill set I need to acquire? Is it just 1, or is it 2, is it 3, or is it 4 like I had to get to understand how to manage a sales team and get them to actually close at the rate that I was closing at? Where are you not good enough yet to win? Told you this was going to be exposing. Told you that some of you guys probably feel kind of crappy after listening to this. That's okay, because I feel crappy too after I get exposed to something that is a weak point for me. The deal with it is, and the most important thing about this, guys, and I preach it every single show. I'm not telling you what to do in terms of like how to utilize the content, but I am telling you to do something. This does you no good. You've invested almost 14 minutes in this episode so far. It does you no good if you don't do something about it. Not for me, for you. This has nothing to do with me. I'm not going to know if you did it or not, but you will. The people who are around you will know. So take the time that you've spent listening to this and leverage it. Get the highest rate of return possible on your time. You invested $0 to be in this, so you can't leverage that. But you did invest your time. And so it's important that you leverage exactly that. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. I'm going to be back next time with another episode. I'm going to do my job and do that. I want you to do your job, and you come back too.